Hello to you all. Today we're doing a transmission service, fluid and filter replacement on a Ford 6R80 transmission. Here's what it looks like underneath. This is the transmission pan. This is your fill plug right here. Also has a little dipstick in it. Okay. First thing I want to do here is take the fill plug out. It is a 19mm head or a 3/4. Here is my 3/4 socket, shallow, with a flex head ratchet, long handle. It's normal to hear a little bit of hissing once this is broke loose. Okay, here's your dipstick, and it comes off separately from your fitting here. Okay, next, what you're going to want to do is start getting the pan bolts off. They're 8mm. The exhaust is going to cause a clearance issue here, so this is where this comes in handy. 6-inch extension, 1/4 inch, and a flex head 8mm socket. That way you can get up in here and get on the bolt heads much easier. Just like that. You're going to want to break them loose by hand, and if you have an impact driver, you can pull them all out that way. Once you're here, on both sides, past the exhaust, an impact driver with an 8mm socket should be able to pull it out on its own. And what you're going to want to do when you pull the pan off is get the back bolts off, and then one across. Take this one off, and then the same one on the opposite side. Take this one off, same one on the opposite side. Work your way forward, and then you'll be able to control the leak. Get a pan underneath. And like I said, if you just go from the back forward, you'll be able to control the leak. Okay, I've got the bolts back about this far here, and I'm starting to notice some dribbles. Okay. Take this bolt out here and watch this. It's increased in draining. At this point, if you'd like, you can wait about 20 minutes until this is done, and then you can continue here. But I'm ferociously impatient, so it's coming out pretty heavily now. All right, I've got back about this far to where this forward row is the only thing left. Once the stream has steadied out and you're down to the last bolt, which I'm not yet, just leave one in right here and then support the pan with your left hand. And with your right hand, if you have an impact driver, pull that last bolt out while you're supporting it. Okay. Set the impact down, and with both hands, lower the pan out. Okay. In addition, I want to add that when I was pulling the pan off, I had to rotate at an angle like this. So once again, better view here. I rotated it like that to clear the exhaust and clear around the filter. And then I lowered it down carefully because there's still some fluid in it, and I tilted it back and drained the remainder of the fluid out of the pan into the drain. Next, you can get your filter out. Get your drain situated directly underneath. Be prepared to catch, it's going to have a lot more fluid come out, potentially. Just wiggle it, and there it comes. Looks like there's another grommet on the back on this particular year model here, or it's just caught. There we go. Okay. This is the style of filter with the green seal. Yours might have the orange grommet right here. If it does, make sure it didn't get caught up in the pump there. You see that little hole? Use a 3/8 extension and pop it out if you have the orange grommet style filter and it's caught up in there. Okay. This particular filter does have a secondary grommet right here that should come with the new filter. This should come right out. Get a pair of pliers if you need to and yank it down. That worked fine. At this point, if you'd like, you can let it sit for 30 minutes to an hour and just get every last drop out that you can. So just some information here. The filter with the green seal and the grommet right here, that's only going to be here, I believe, when you have the auxiliary transmission pump, which is part of the auto start-stop system. If you do not have auto start-stop, then you're most likely going to have the filter with the orange grommet. If your pan gasket is over 5 or 6 years old and over 80,000 miles or so, I would replace it. Although it is reusable if you want to. Apologies for the background noise. Clean your pan out really well. Get the metal shavings and debris off the magnets. Maybe a good time if you can find an aftermarket pan with a drain plug on the bottom. That would be great. Here's a part number for the filter on a 17 F-150 with the auxiliary pump. Never mind, I'm going to have to edit that out. That's for a 10-speed. Okay, I've got my filter here. Once again, this is for the transmissions with the auxiliary pump for the auto start-stop system. If you don't have that, you will have the orange seal, I believe, on that. And you will also not have this secondary grommet situation going on here. Alright, if you have this filter with the seal right here, you can go ahead and lube it a little bit and install this grommet. It pushes straight up in the valve body. If you have the orange grommet, do not lubricate it. In fact, if you've got the orange grommet situation going on here, you can dry this out up here actually. You want it to have some holding force, and if it's lubricated, the filter's going to drop out on you. But that's not the situation I have today, so I'm going to take this grommet in this orientation here and push it up in the hole right here. There, fully seated. Okay, lubricating the O-ring with transmission fluid. Install it up in here, get everything aligned, and then push up. Double check. Okay, it's installed. Give it a little tug if you want to. I'm going to go around with a rag and just wipe the residue off the pan mating surface right here. All the way around. And done. Next, you might want to get the dribbles off the exhaust, okay? That way you don't have any smoke coming from the bottom of the vehicle when you start it and drive it. The little bit of residue left over will burn off and it won't catch on fire. Disclaimer, get it all off. Use something to get every last drop off. But for me, that's good enough right there. I wipe the mating surface on the pan as well. Okay, I've got the gasket set on there. Alright, you guys. If you have the filter with the orange grommet, you're going to want to hold the filter up where it needs to stay with your left hand, and with your right hand, get the pan up in there and get it flush up against the case. And don't allow the filter to fall out. But if you have this sort of setup here, this filter, this grommet's going to hold it where it needs to be, so you don't have to worry about that. But once again, if you have the orange grommet up there, it's going to want to fall. So just support it until you get the pan up flush up against here all the way around. This pickup right here on the filter is going to go down into the provision here inside the pan, just so you know. That's how you'll know that it's installed properly. Once you've got the pan up here flush, get one bolt right here, run down almost flush on this side, and caddy corner over here, just to keep it, it'll keep the pan up there enough to hold the filter up so it doesn't fall down inside the pan. It can still do that. You can have just a little bit of gap up here left over. That way you can have some movement in the pan to line the rest of the bolts up. Okay, this is what I'm talking about here. I have one bolt here, that much slack in it. That's enough to keep the filter from falling out. And I have one on the opposite end, right here, about the same height up. That's going to also, keeping it like that, it's going to allow movement. Go ahead and get the rest of your bolts started by hand. Okay, I have every bolt started by hand. Now I have a Milwaukee M12 impact driver I'm going to use here. Just go around and snug them all up. All the way around. If you don't have an impact driver, just a small 1/4 inch ratchet like this will give you plenty of torque. Just get them tight with something small like that. With all the bolts tight, I'm going to go ahead and wipe down the pan, get it nice and clean. Okay, about done here. Looks good. This is a Mighty Vac fluid exchange pump. I'm not sponsored by anybody here, but the way this works is you take this handle off of here, and then you put your fluid in here and you pressurize it, and it'll come out of this hose here and go into the transmission. You can get something like this for yourself for this job. Gonna add some friction modifier to it. Well, it's not friction modifier, it's a conditioner, I'm sorry. Okay, with that in there, I'm gonna go ahead and start with 5 quarts. Get about 5 quarts in here and put it into the transmission. Then start it up, let it warm up a little bit, and it should be in the hash marks. I'll show you. I ended up getting 6.5 to 7 quarts just because the truck was sitting with the pan off for a couple hours there. Okay, I've pumped it up a little bit. It's got about 10 psi on it. It's a little low. I should pump it more, but I'm going to go ahead and pump about 4 quarts in, and then I'm going to start the engine. Otherwise it's going to overfill, so you need to start the engine to get the pump to pull some fluid through the transmission. And when I say pump, I mean the front pump in the transmission. It's going to circulate the fluid. I've got the engine started. I'm going to go ahead and pump the rest of this in there. If you're using this exact fluid exchange machine, once you get to the bottom of it, of what the level in there, when it gets low, you're going to want to tilt it like this, because the pickup for the fluid is on this corner. Okay, all that fluid's in there. The engine is running. The transmission's cold right now, but I'm going to wipe off my dipstick, insert it, like that. And as you can see here, one moment please, it's right around the middle of the stick. Now with the transmission cold, the middle of the stick is acceptable. Mine's slightly higher than the middle. If you're down to the M in manual, that's fine. With the transmission hot, you should get it up in the top of the A range. The A range right there. Not the B, but yeah. There you have it. I'm going to install this here. Get the cap back on here. Tighten the cap back down with that ratchet I used earlier. And then this transmission will be ready to go. I hope this helps you guys out. If it does, please consider liking and subscribing, and have yourself a great day.